evening, everyone. We welcome to Kaleidoscope Evening with Gelda program. Today, I'd like to present you a wonderful poetess. I'm talking about Sunita Grover Raina. Sunita, a renowned journalist, is originally from Kashmir, India. She was born and brought up in Kolkata, East Bengal. Always a student of science stream, she is graduated in Bachelor of Pharmacy from Jadavpur University, Kolkata, specializing for 2 further years in manufacturing and testing drugs, medicines. Was the second topper in Government Selection Board exams for the post of Inspector of Drugs. Finally, reaching the highest position was the Director of Drugs Control, East Bengal, in the Department of Health and Family Welfare for the state of East Bengal in India. She was retired. She was a very active sports person as a captain for table tennis, also an excellent shuttle and cyclist. She started reading great poets as Robert Frost, William Wordsworth, Khalil Gibran, Lord Tennyson, and Emily Dickinson when was 58 years old, and started to join online poetic groups when was 61. She is writing since then in various national and international poetic forums and has been accepted as a poet who writes from her heart and labeled as an tolerant poet. She has won many awards from several forums, national and international ones, and gained a lot of popularity and certificates awards of appreciation bestowed upon her jointly by the International Poetic Forum, Motivational Strips, and Gujarat Sahiri Academy, and 75th Independence Day of India. This award given in recognition of exhibiting literary brilliance per global standards. She writes senios, haikus, and gogyoka. Some poems of hers were published in online web magazines Bharat Vision Info and WordPress.com. She has been interviewed in the weekly interview program of the group Writers Mirror Hassan, India, and Unity Mirror's Literary Criticism. Her poems have been translated in Hindi language for Hindi readers. One has been translated in Bengali too. Oh, wow! Very nice bio indeed. Welcome to our interview moment, dearest. Let's start our interview, please. Dear Sunita, when was poetry present in your life?
Poetry appeared in my life in my school days. Read poetry as a subject. Poems which were simple, had a clear meaning, appealed to me. The poets I read in my school days as part of the syllabus were William Wordsworth, Robert Frost, John Keats, and Lord Tennyson. I was very fond of Kabir Das, who wrote in Hindi, and till date can recite all his duas. Duas are two-line verses.
What poetry means for you?
This is a very interesting question because I never had any craving to read or write poetry. It was just curiosity to see what happens in these poetic forums and also what poets are writing about. I joined a forum, Poemarium, on 31st of March 2021 and posted my first poem, Trust. Poetry is just a way of expressing my thoughts, which are desirous of being expressed. The thoughts come surprisingly on their own, and I keep on writing. That's all what it means to me.
What poetic styles do you like and do you prefer to write your poems?
I love poems that rhymes. I found that it comes very naturally to me. However, I write in free verse too. In both the cases, it has to be spontaneous.
Please cite an ancient and a contemporary poet who inspires you the most in the construction of your poems.
After school days, I read poetry at the age of 58. I whimsically picked two poets, or rather some mysterious energy picked them for me. Khalil Gibran and Emily Dickinson. Read all their poems available online. Sincerely speaking, no poet inspired me. Poetry writing is magical to me. It comes on its own, and all I do is keep typing till it ends. The magic is in the first line which is given. The rest will flow on its own. If you do not jot the starter line and try to keep it in your memory for writing later, it never can be recollected. It just disappears.
If I say that poetry can adapt everything into it, do you agree? Why?
I'm not very sure about this question. Adapt means to adjust to new conditions. Yes, with flow of time, conditions are changing, and poetry is also adapting accordingly. And poets are writing accordingly also.
In your point of view, does a poet need to have an academic education? Or is it possible to write empirically?
A poet needs to have sufficient control over the language in which he or she writes in order to express oneself. You do not require degrees to be a poet. Your observations, experiences, and emotions are more than enough.
Sunita, what advice would you like to give for those who are starting in the field of poetry?
Well, I will tell them to write from their hearts and not their heads. They should write in simple language, which should be sweet and spontaneous. No one gets impressed by big words and difficult and complicated poems. No one wants to read your research thesis or solve Sherlock Holmes mysteries in your poems. Your poem should touch the hearts of the readers, and they should look forward to your next poem and remember something of your poem and your style. Otherwise, what is the use of writing? Be natural and an untailored poet. Maintain your style and do not ever ape anyone.
Where do you usually looking for inspiration to write?
I do not look for inspiration anywhere. I'm just a media, utilized for putting down the thoughts given. Nothing is mine. No poetry is mine. Only the style of expressing is exclusive to a poet.
Kindly, could you recite a poem of yours for all of us now, please?
Yes, why not? I would really love to recite one of my poems. I must thank you, Gelda Castro, for giving me this opportunity to recite a poem for you all. My poem is titled as Rosy Poesy. His dream world is a non-ending, resonating, rhythmic poetry, which will keep forming with his cosmic dance. We just blank our minds and call it thinking. Actually, thieves are we, stealing bits and pieces of his work. and hum what we hear, which he pushes into our ears. We quickly save it on paper like gems locked in a locker, lest it vanishes from mind, lest it gets stolen by time. And if it does, you can never ever hear it again. The same song never again. For what we hear is that living moment, and every moment gets lost becomes the lost past. You won't ever remember it, however hard you might think, for your brain gets washed like a car in a car wash. If it ever resurfaces, it is the echoing words, which are sometimes heard and sounds like the dead poet's words in someone's rosy poesy. Every being is a poet, can anytime sing a duet. Every molecule of a body is dancing in his rhapsody. For all his divine music is following his divine dance, following him in a trance like the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Thank you.
Wow! Thank you so very much for your brilliant interview. And you guys, I hope to see you on the next Sunday. Take care of yourself. See you there.